Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second webinar in this new series that is sponsored by the Asian American Business Development Center together with Hennessy. And their goal overall with this new series is to help the Asian American community bounce back from this COVID crisis, especially from a business standpoint. I just want to say that this is open to absolutely everybody. Does not matter if you're Asian American or not, especially with today's topic, which is how to work from home and how to be productive, which applies to all of us in so many ways. And we might have a couple questions along the way that are specific to the Asian American community, but other than that, this is open to everyone, and even so, we can learn from each other and from different points of view. So please know that everyone is welcome today, and we hope that you learn a lot, and we hope that you learn from each other. So how to work from home and how to be productive. That second part is, of course, the key to today. And I just want to share my screen really quick for this little cartoon. So I think I know some companies, I know we've talked about this, Matthew and Pam and Julie, our panelists today, have had some guidelines in place for quite some time, and other companies have not, and so have been forced to sort of reevaluate, regroup, and make this happen. And I think that was a fear for a while among managers, that if you work from home, you're going to be doing your own thing, sipping a cocktail and on a beach. And as we've all learned, we've not only had to reevaluate, but in some cases, people are working harder. I know I've felt that way than I've ever worked before. So we're going to learn a lot from each other and how to reevaluate our policies and what policies others have in place already, and some tools and some technology that people are using, some of the challenges that we're all facing and how to overcome them. And finally, I hope that there's some time at the end. We'll talk about the future and what that might hold, and also get to some of your questions. So we're up to more than 50 people, which is great. It is my pleasure now to introduce you to our outstanding panelists. So I'm going to go in no particular order. I'm going to start with Julie, who's here on my screen next to me. And Julie is the CEO and executive board member of Olaplex. So if you don't know what that is, you should Google it and find out what your hair has been missing. She has a proven track record of propelling emerging brands to the mainstream while globalizing a long list of established brands in the US and internationally. And Julie was most recently global CEO of Moroccan Oil, also a hair product company. And the last time I saw you at the Business Roundtable, you said you were starting a new position, and so you're in that. So she not only has fabulous hair, she has a proven track record as an accomplished global senior executive with experience and exposure in 4 continents. And she's recognized for her leadership with many honors, including being nominated for the Wall Street Journal Top 50 Women to Watch. And I should tell you that if you check out the chat box on bottom, Jing is putting the full bios, a full shortened bio of each of our panelists, because they're so accomplished, we'll be here forever if I read all that. So take a look at that. And then, so that's Julie. And then Matthew Lee brings his 20 plus years of experience working with companies ranging from venture-backed startups to global software and consulting firms. Currently, he serves as the EVP of Banking Financial Services for Cognizant Softvision, which is a division of Cognizant. They deliver digital products and solutions with globally distributed communities. And this group always had a deep-rooted culture of communities and with a sense of the connected world. And I think what you'll be really excited about with Matthew and with all of our panelists is to learn about the policies and practices that they've already had in place, both in terms of teleworking and also remote culture. I know you all have been really creative with that. So I'm excited to learn a lot from Matthew. And last but not least is Pamela Hips, Pamela Lipp-Hendricks. Pam is the head of executive talent management at JPMorgan Chase, where she's been for 20 years. She drives the succession planning process for senior executives, as well as the talent management framework and initiatives, including coaching, talent identification, and mobility. Pam partners with colleagues throughout the company and leads integration of those disciplines. And she also served as the Chief Diversity Officer for the last 3 years. So I know that's just a taste, a small bit of what all of you have done, and your bios should be down there in the chat box. And yes, great to see you too, Eric. And great to hopefully hear from all of you. I know it's Zoom, it's a challenge, but if you put some comments down there in the chat box, we'll try to take a look. And then any questions you have along the way, put them in the Q&A section. Put your Q in that Q&A tab. That's the better place to put your questions. All right, let's do this. Panelists, are you all ready to dive in?
We are ready.
I know you're all muted. You can just leave it unmuted. We actually wanted to start, the four of us, we spoke before this webinar. We wanted to get a little bit of information from all of you who are attending. So we have 2 poll questions for you to start. And Jing, and oh, I should say, and you know, this whole thing is by AABDC, and Jing is down there in the background who's helping to coordinate this, and Patrick as well. So shout out to both of you. Okay. Jing, can we get our first poll question? We want to know from all of you, this is a little bit of a fun one. What's your favorite part? What's the best part about working from home? And the panelists, you can answer too. Yes, you can answer, and you can all choose more than one choice. And these are anonymous. We've got 30 seconds left to answer. I think we're leaving this up for a minute. I wish I had Jeopardy music for you or something, but I don't. And then there is an option for other if you want to put other things in the chat box. Get your votes in. Best part about working from home.
It's hard to pick just one.
I know. You don't have to pick just one. I think we have it set to multiple choice, meaning okay, you can choose multiple options. And Jing, how long is this going, or let's see. Can I end this? I'm going to end this. All right, our winner, no commute. Yes. Mm-hmm. Wearing leggings. Yep. Sweatpants. Being able to turn, yeah, Jing and Patrick have their video off right now. More time with kids. And then let's see if anyone has anything in the other section. Spending time with kids. Yoga after work. Oh, that's a great one too. Yeah, because you don't have that commute time. Okay, great. And then that was a little fun. We do have one question and one more question for you to help us get started. Jing, can you bring up the question about the biggest concern about working from home from a professional standpoint? What's your biggest concern about working from home? Again, you can choose more than one if you want. This will help us just to guide the discussion a little bit better. If all the panelists, if we take a look at what people are saying, that might help us just to know where to guide the conversation. All right, it's been a minute, so I'm gonna end this poll. Never stop working, not enough balance. Yeah, I am coming to you from my kitchen, so it's like, you just get up, you're still here. That's number one. Number two is loss of relationship with coworkers. So we are gonna talk about that too as one of the challenges, and then get some ideas from all of you and the panelists for suggestions on that. Loss of productivity among staff, that's from a management standpoint. Missed opportunities from an employee standpoint. That's sort of out of sight, out of mind concept is, I think, a concern. And great, let's see if there's any in the chat box. That working from home will come to an end. I'm hoping that means that Stacy likes working from home and doesn't want it to come to an end. More busy, loss of relevance of job. Yep, having to redefine sort of what you're doing and is it even relevant? Always being on call. Okay, great. All right, let's dive in. So first, our first question really today is if you could, for our panelists, if you could talk about the teleworking policy at your company. And let's see, I'm just going to go in reverse order this time. And then as always, you can chime in with each other. But Pam, can you talk a little bit about the teleworking policy at your company and maybe how it's changed a little bit?
Sure. You know, pre-COVID, our policy was fairly flexible. There were certain jobs that we really believed, obviously this crisis proved us wrong, but that we really believed had to be done at home. So for example, I think most investment banks would have said traders need to be in the office. And so what you could do though, is if you felt that you had a case for working from home with a fixed kind of schedule, you could talk to your manager about it. And it was really rooted in, you know, your performance. Did the department think that it made sense? And really setting up check-ins to make sure that both the department and your manager, it made sense for, and that also your performance warranted it. I think that was for kind of official work from home. We also had the occasional work from home where you could just work that out with your manager if you needed to spend, you know, a day here, or time off for an appointment or something like that. You would just work with your manager. So in our company, the manager is really the linchpin. I think what this crisis has shown us is that almost any job can be done from home. Not all of them. There's still quite, you know, some that need to be in the office, but there's a lot of jobs that really can be done from home if set up correctly. And I think as in our company, as in many others, and what the polls showed, right, is that we're all working really long hours. And so productivity hasn't shifted. But I think to Stacy's point, one of the things we should start to think about is, you know, when I'm going to put it in quotes, but when life resumes. So as soon as new sporting events come back on TV, as soon as people have to start shuttling children around, you know, what does that do to these long hours that we're working? Because people will need to stop to do other things. So I think for now, it totally works. And I think people have adjusted beautifully. Companies have adjusted beautifully.
Okay, great. And we'll get to a little bit more about the culture and the workplace and all that too. Matthew, I know Cognizant had teleworking policies in place for quite some time. Can you talk a little bit about what you all have been doing? I know you've had these virtual pods already in place, what you've been doing and maybe how it's changed recently.
Sure. Thank you very much for this opportunity. As far as our division, just to give you a sense of how quickly we reacted to this whole COVID issue, within the 48 hours, 98% of our teams, were able to connect to our clients and connect to our company within 48 hours. Within 60 hours, we connected 100%. So we didn't lose any time or productivity whatsoever. So it's because of our nature of our work. So we always had work from home policy. Obviously, we had to take consideration for security because we have our consultant accessing many of our client-sensitive data, but our clients always provided security tools. So we're able to work from remote home fairly quickly, and the adoption of that work from home concept was somewhat natural for us because of our communities were spread out through our global in nature already. So it was very, very interesting for us to now work from home. The issue, as I think the poll showed, I think interaction with our other members. For example, we would get together for meetings in our studios face-to-face, but now everything moved to Zoom. So the culture from face-to-face in the meetings now to Zoom, I think that will be, going forward, I think that will be much of a norm for us as well as many of our clients as well as our company. So I think our associates are dealing with those situations pretty well. And the whole trick is, I think, to make our whole Zoom and connectivity fun, and also making sure we always communicate to our associates to make sure, reserve a little bit of time for themselves, like you would do normally at the office. For example, taking a coffee break, taking some breaks and mental health breaks. So I think that, making sure that happens, I think that, as a manager, I think you want to make sure you allow teams to really have that little bit of break. I think it will create more productivity and more the cohesive work environment.
Great, and we'll talk maybe a little bit more about some of the culture, the remote culture, some of the fun stuff here in a second too, and I have some of those visuals from Matthew's team as well. And Jui, can you talk a little bit about the teleworking policy at your company and just in some specifics, maybe what it is, how it's working, and how it's changed?
Right, I think amongst all of us, Olaplex is the only company that has always had a work from home culture. We actually do not have a head office. We don't even have a sub office. So basically when this thing hit, we really were not adjusting. We were actually already using the time to really accelerate growth. And really what we did was, instead of just being in a growth phase, we became very transformative and became sort of the go-to leader for a lot of smaller brands who did not have a work from home culture coming to us and asking for advice. So what we did was we did a virtual training on Facebook Live as well as Instagram Live, and really showed people what to do. So a couple of things that are very important in working from home is, to everyone's point, setting boundaries. So one of the things that we always train on and tell people to do is, when you wake up, get yourself ready like you're going to work, right? You know, the first thing is don't pick up your phone and start checking your mail, because guess what? You'll be in there in your pajamas, in your robe by then. Wake up, do whatever you normally do, get ready for work, go make yourself a cup of coffee, have breakfast, do your exercise if that's what you normally do, then sit down and begin your day. And that really sets your mind to be very productive instead of being anxious. I think what this has taught us is, in the past, we thought about productivity. Well, while everyone has become more productive, what we find is that there's no worries for employers to think otherwise. Why is that? Why is the case? In the past, when you were the only work from home, guess what? You think that there are other distractions outside of the home. So you may be, to your point, you know, people are thinking you're going to the beach, you're going to the restaurant. With this shelter in place, there's no such thing. And so you're finding that everyone is more productive. And the number one thing that I love the most is the fact that we are doing away with the obligatory 1-hour meetings. When you have a Zoom meeting, if it takes 30 minutes, 15 minutes, so be it. And so one of the things that we have implemented that wasn't from our work from home culture is the fact that parents now have kids from K to 12 where they have to do schoolwork at home. So while you may be working from home, you've got other obligations. So we have given all our staff 2 hours a day to really stay with their kids, to work on homework where they don't have to answer emails, they don't have to be attending meetings. And then the other thing is, we all have watched the program, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? So while you may be an adult trying to help your kids with homework, you may not know what to do. So we've actually given, have programs like where they can sign online with outschool.com, where the parents can actually use outside resources to help their kids with homework, or even some sort of arts and crafts. And we find that with all of this kind of programming, people feel like they're in a sanity check, and we feel good that we are connecting with our employees in a way that they feel like we care about them. Because we were not just giving them generic advice, do this and do that. We are actually giving them actual resources where they are able to ultimately apply and find themselves being more productive.
So you touched on a lot of points there, the policy itself, as well as some of the cultural aspects, as well as some of the administrative aspects. No longer that requirement to keep a meeting going. Although I feel like I've had more meetings, more Zoom, because everyone's like, let's just have a Zoom meeting. And so it's like there's 5 throughout the day. So I know that's mixed. And I realized I didn't even introduce myself. I was so excited to introduce all of you that I'm Sapna. I work for New York University. I'm the assistant director of visual storytelling, and we too have been figuring it out. I was a reporter for a long time. I do visual content, photography and video on both sides of the camera, and most recently just directed the first virtual reality event for NYU. And so I managed a production company from home. And they have an entirely different culture too, with different technology. They use a chat app called Discord, for example. It's kind of like the Slack for gamers, for video game fans, but it's evolved into a business tool. So I do want to circle back to some of the cultural aspects that you all are talking about, but really quick, since you mentioned Zoom and since we're talking about these Zoom meetings, can you all talk a little bit about some of the tools and technology that you might be using, maybe you've been using, maybe you're trying out? Everyone has sort of been using Zoom, but maybe if there's something else or new ways, can you talk a little bit about the tools and tech? I'm going to let any of you jump in.
I'll jump in quickly because when we were working from home, we still do. We use G Suite, and G Suite has a Google Hangout that automatically populate when you set up meetings. So that has always been their go-to. But like anybody who has used, G Suite and Google Hangout, unless you use Google Chrome, the feed isn't very clear. So we've defaulted to Zoom. Some people obviously come on Microsoft Teamwork. So we don't mandate our vendors on what program they use. Whatever they use, we are able to connect with them. We just need to know what browser to use so that we can get the best feed. And we find that Slack is very helpful. Prior to that, the team was using Facebook a lot in terms of communication, but with Slack, you can compartmentalize your discussions in such a way that, if there is a specific topic that is relevant for your team, you can dive right into that topic instead of having to read the whole thread like you would with Facebook.
And Matthew, I'm actually going to jump to you next because I wanted to tell all of you that Jing has put some resources in the chat from Matthew's team as well. He had referred to, he put my bio back in there. Thank you, Jing. But if you scroll up past that, you'll see some links from Cognizant referring back to the virtual pods and the Game of Pods, which I'm assuming is a little play on Game of Thrones, I think maybe. But Matthew, can you talk a little bit about the technology and tools that you all are using for teleworking?
Yes, thank you. As far as our community, as I said earlier, we always had that very distributed the culture and workforce. Our communities are teams of people within certain sections, certain countries. We have people in Romania, we have people in the US, we have people in Latin America, we have a global footprint. So using tools and software and products has always been our DNA. And collaborating using these tools has always been our forefront of our thinking, constantly trying to improve the way we could communicate better and better. Obviously, security is an issue. You heard a lot about Zoom security. We changed the policy a little bit to make sure we adapt to the input that we're getting from our corporate security as well. But we have, for example, we could do there are tools out there where you could do an electronic whiteboard or sticky notes where you could collaborate across different continents. So we're using many tools. For example, Zoom is just one of our tools, but we also use Microsoft Teams because we were told that it's a more secure way to access. And also we use WebEx, so we use multiple tools based on our client interactions, as well as based on the security level that's required to do a project. So we toggle back and forth in various different tools and techniques to make sure we comply to our client requests as well as our internal security policies as we evolve. The security is becoming a very, very important factor because in this market, when everyone's using these video or electronic chats, web, the phishing attacks has gone up. So we've been very cognizant, not to be fun at our company name, but we've been thinking a lot about the security aspect of that. But there's always a balance between security and giving the flexibility between our communities and our teams so that it's always a balancing act. This is where we look to a guidance from our security, corporate security as well. But Zoom is our go-to model, our go-to tools where we allow collaboration video, and also you could put different backgrounds. So we have various different backgrounds on our Zoom. I didn't want to torture you with our different backgrounds today, but we do have different tools, and the whole point is for our team is to make it fun using Zoom and different tools and different writing tools. And so that's been our policy, as well as using collaborative software to do collaboration across different continents.
Great. And also great that Cognizant is cognizant of security. And somebody has put in our chat box, I think Carlo, let's see, put in a link to, it looks like, secure video conferencing via WebEx for Cisco. Okay, great. Yeah, and Pamela, I'm going to come to you next, but then I do also want to circle back if anyone has. Some of you have mentioned some specifics, which Jing has mentioned down there. There's Microsoft, there's Google Suites, but if any of you have any specifics that you are using for security, for messaging, as a couple of us have mentioned, those specific tips would be great too. But Pam, any tools and tech that you all have found that's working well?
You know, not that much different than Cognizant, actually. Everything, Zoom. We had, before we were actually primarily like a video conference through Cisco. And then we then added Zoom. And it's everything, you know, to Matthew's point around making sure that our tech team and our security team were very comfortable with, you know, making sure it was inside our firewalls and all of that. So the one thing I would say is just huge kudos to everybody's internal technology team. They have just done amazing work through all of this to get everybody home where they weren't, to be able to scale some of these things like Cognizant. We have about 250,000 employees. So being able to scale everybody up to suddenly be able to work from home at the same time has been they've just done an incredible job, I think. And I hear the stories like this around a lot of companies. So I think they've been able to scale a lot of these tools and make them secure from a cyber perspective. But no different from what everyone else has talked about. We're highly regulated, and as we deal with clients, we have to be really crystal clear about which tools we use. So I think for us, we're primarily limited to those two.
On that note, I actually want to see if we can bring up a poll question to get some thoughts from all of you. And first of all, I did see one raised hand. I just want to let you all know, if you could put maybe you already did that, if you could put your question in the Q&A section. We'll try to get to them at the end or maybe along the way. So that would be easier if you go ahead and type it in the Q&A. But since we've been talking about Zoom, Jing, if you could bring up the question, we wanted to get some thoughts from all of you to see, what do you think is the most challenging part about Zoom meetings? And again, you can pick more than one. You can pick all of them if they're all relevant. What's the most challenging part about Zoom meetings? And I should say I made up these answer choices, so you can tell some of the things that I have thought about.
I think I'm the culprit for one of the poll question.
Which one? The one about cats? No.
Email that getting distracted while because I think all of us are multitasking these days, right? Some of our associates have about 30 different tabs are running various screens, so it's a very, very convoluted world. So having focus is very challenging.
And you can see when someone is multitasking, because you can see their eyes like typing and they're on their phone.
I like Lindsay Howard said in the chat, can't see everyone at once when too many people are in a meeting. That's a good one. That's hard when you first didn't know you could scroll.
Yes, I didn't know you could tab over to the next page. There's like pages of
pages.
Okay, and one thing we discovered at a recent meeting was the whole breakout session groups. The host can break people out into breakout sessions, but that's a whole challenge and skill as well. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to end this poll, Jing. And then I hope you all can see these results too. Panelists, are you able to see these results? Because then I'm hoping all of our participants can. Yeah? All right, let's see. What do we got? Okay, so team members are distracted is the number one, that they're emailing or texting, hard to speak up. Yes. Let's see, and I know Julie wanted to talk a little bit about that too, is video keeps freezing. It's so frustrating, and in just a terrible contorted look. Sharing screens is awkward. I'm gonna do it a little more here today. Coworkers, cats, and let's see what What else is the if and the other? Yeah. Yes, these are definitely exhausting video meetings. Hopefully this webinar is one of the more fun meetings of your day. Can't see everyone at once. Yes. Okay. Pretending like it's face to face. Okay, great. Any thoughts from our panelists from some of this feedback from the Zoom meetings?
I mean, I think you've heard me say when we were, kind of doing our pre-meeting. I mean, one of the frustrations, I think, for a lot of people who follow protocol, and they want to be a good team player, they're on a Zoom call, maybe with 10 people, and they tend to be a little bit more quiet, and they let kind of people have their turn, no different from being in a conference room. But I think Zoom does give all of us an opportunity to speak up and to kind of formulate our thoughts, especially if going into this meeting, if it is a brainstorming meeting, and that you have an idea that you really want to share. You can kind of formulate that idea in your head, think of some working examples, and then when your turn comes to speak, you can actually be very articulate and can be very, expressive as to what you want to talk about. And I think that this also gives them a chance, especially for people who normally get interrupted in regular meetings, to be a little bit more heard by others. And I found that out myself. I mean, when I have meetings, obviously being the CEO, people tend to listen to you, no one interrupts you. But when it's somebody else, they get interrupted. And I am now sort of like, I've spent enough years in the corporate world to know that there are people with good ideas, but they're not they're afraid to speak up. And so what I have done is I've asked a lot of my direct reports to host one-on-one standing meeting or standing calls on Zoom, even if it's just one-on-one, and have it like for 15 or 30 minutes every other week. You will then draw out the people that are a little bit more quiet, and then in a bigger setting, you're helping them formulate their thoughts and articulate their thinking. Now, then in a more formal meeting, it becomes less nerve-wracking. We can also tell them on the view, do not make it into a gallery view where they see so many people and they get even more nervous. Do it in a speaker view where you're only seeing the person speaking, including yourself. So all these little techniques and tricks really, help. And I find that being, whether you are a leader or a manager or somebody who is, reporting rank and file, always know that having a clear understanding of what you want to communicate will help set you apart. And Zoom gives you that opportunity. Or even when you write, do not write very quickly, even on a Slack. Check your spelling if you can, and make sure that you're not repeating yourself. Anything that you can do within the screen is best. Do not try to go into multi-layers, because people don't have the attention. They kind of stop at, whatever, and they're already responding to you.
The one thing you forgot to put in the thing was that your 10 and 12-year-olds suddenly decide now is the time they want to kill each other. So they're in the background. I apologize for that.
Perfect.
If you heard that. I think those are really good tips, especially about being deliberate and being intentional and being thoughtful in terms of reviewing your work. I think it's a great opportunity. I think you can do one thing, right? Like Matthew's saying, you could totally decide you want to multitask, and it's kind of easy, especially if it's a meeting with more than, I forget what it is, 6 or 8 people, because there's a good chance you're on the next screen and you can consider it an opportunity to hide. Or you could really try to figure out how you get your voice heard, right? All of the things that we do now add up and will contribute to our performance and how people look at us later. Were we engaged? Did we participate? I think some people who have found it easy to participate in rooms are finding it harder to participate virtually, and vice versa. So take it as an opportunity, I think, to kind of be as focused as you can. I think also to be understanding of others. You have no idea really what's going on in someone's house, just like if I didn't tell you, you would know why I was a little distracted, right? So it doesn't mean someone's not, they might get distracted, but they are trying to be there. Like, we have to assume good intent, and we have to assume that people are doing their best every day to get their work done and be committed and try to balance it all. So I think to the extent you can be understanding, and I would also ask people to be deliberate about others. Maybe you don't have a point to make, but maybe you've noticed in meeting after meeting, one of your colleagues doesn't speak up. So maybe say, wow, it would be really great to hear from you, so-and-so, right? And I think that also will then show that you're trying to be inclusive and you're inviting somebody into the conversation. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to do that, especially someone who always is kind of a little bit late and on that second screen, right? Really try to engage other people during this time. I think it's really important.
Yeah, for Cognizant Softvision, we always hired certain profiles. So very outgoing, energetic, very engaging type of people. So for us, it's all about sometimes when you try to speak all at once. So sometimes it does cause some of the challenges. So I think the coordination of who speaks first and who will who's next, and as Pamela said, being considerate, I think those are very key. And now another one is we always tell our whether they work from home or in the office, manage your time wisely, because multitasking, I think I'm sure all of us know that in the conference rooms, in the meetings, sometimes we multitask, we cheated a little bit. We would be, texting to people for urgent matters while you're in conference, in conference rooms. But we always tell our associates to manage your time wisely, because follow your routine. If you used to take certain breaks at certain time for coffee or lunch or snacks, do that. All of us are very aware of what's going on, and when we have some interruptions behind the scenes, we always make joke of it, because all of us have been there. So I think the being understanding and also making sure they don't feel awkward, and embrace disruptions, embrace change, and embrace unknowns. I think all those kind of factors are key to helping our associates to be more productive and be happy at Zoom, because this is going to go on for a while. Many organizations are making the work from home now a policy. As Pamela said, our company does not allow, certain clients, they don't allow work from home all the time. So we have to make some pivots on changes. But I think work from home concept will be here for a long time. And I think we need to adjust and make sure we're progressing towards better the work from home policies, as well as making it fun for them to be more productive and enjoying what they're doing as well.
And if I may add one thing, in fact, it's not only because it has to be flexible. There are also legal implications. I mean, Governor Newsom in California, I'm sure it's going to hit New York as well, where they are saying that they want to shift the responsibility from the state and the government to employers and insurance company. So if your employee goes back to work, gets coronavirus, the company and the insurance policy is responsible for the employee, no longer the state. So there are a lot of other legal implications that companies have to be aware of. And I think as a result of that, it will be because of necessity that they will have to have a lot more work from home programs to make sure that the company does not get implicated in terms of cost.
Yeah, in fact, our company because we have, similar to JPMorgan Chase, we have about 300,000 employees globally. So studios and offices, obviously the big concerns, and our associates' health are number one. So we do have a global task force to look at back to work post-COVID. Right. I'm not sure if you call it a post-COVID anymore, because I think it's here to stay. It's like flu as well later on. So that we do have to think about what happens as we move forward, instead of concept of post. It will be somewhat transitional kind of process where some of us work from home, some of us will continue to travel. I personally traveled a lot. If given opportunity, I'll continue to travel again. So I think there's a priority. Obviously, health is very important. Health for you and your family are number one. But at the same time, there's a balancing act of getting your work done wherever you need. I think that's the discussions that we're having now. And then as a managers, we have to be really understanding what is going on, as well as the mental health, as well as the physical health of our associates.
I think we're going to come back to that topic as well, sort of what the future might hold. and how you all are reimagining, obviously still a work in progress, but at the moment, sort of some of the things you're thinking about moving ahead. I just want to recap here for a second, because you all made several good points from the current situation, which, as you mentioned, is going to last a long time. And part of that, I think what you all are saying is really maximizing the platform that we have. So Zoom is what most of us are using. It allows audio one at a time, which is both annoying and can be used to your advantage, as Jui said. And Jui, although you did mention it today, I know you've said it several times, like especially among the Asian American culture, the importance of speaking up, and how often people in our communities don't speak up. And Pam, you talked about it too, using it as an opportunity to speak up. And Matthew, I just wanted to come back to you really quick, because in terms of culture, you all have had a few examples of making it fun that I just wanted to share really quick, and then we'll come back to some more challenges in the future before 2 o'clock. But really quick, I'm going to share a screen too. Can you just talk about some of the things that you've done that have worked? I know there's coffee. I know there's, you have a different culture that you all have tried to create. Can you talk a little bit about that? You are muted. Yes, Matthew, unmute. That's another Zoom challenge. There you go.
So we always had global footprint. So we always had people working from home. As I said, we embrace change. We embrace work from home. So we have, the work from home coffee challenges. Who has the best cup, best bugs? We have pet challenges. Who has, the cutest pet? So as you could see, we embrace and we actually make it fun. I think that's a key. It's about connections and making sure our associates are connected. Not just with the management, but with the peers and with teams. I think that's something that we've been fine-tuning, as well as making Zoom fun. As you can see, we have, virtual, if you see the bottom, people wear sunglasses. We actually have, very different themes. For us, I think embracing this whole work from home environment and making it fun, as well as I think the key thing is understanding that all of us are going through the same thing, working from home. We have limited space, kids are running around, you hear noise. I hear sometimes, garbage truck backing up, so all those distractions, I think has to be very understanding and, making it fun for our associate. When your associates are happy, they become very productive as well. I mean, even though they work long hours, I think giving them mental breaks, as well as having that, infusing some of the fun activities are very, very key. We do have like a virtual happy hours. We have a virtual studio get together for people who used to work in the same offices. So, people bring drinks at, later on in the evenings. So all these concepts of making it fun and making it socially connected are the key factors to, I think, for now, even going forward as well, because we'll have people on, at the studio as well as a virtual. We always had that kind of mixed, blended approach, and I think that's going to continue as we move forward.
Okay, great. Yeah, I know at our company we've experimented with some different things, happy hours, tried a trivia night. It seems to be more of an experiment, like what's working, what are people into, what works. We have not tried a pet challenge or a coffee mug challenge, or that fridge magnet challenge, which I wasn't sure what that is. But
yeah. So as I said, the whole point is to be connected and make it fun, right? I think that's the key for everyone to participate in this whole distributed work from home concept.
And we have just about 12 minutes left, so maybe I want to see if we can talk a little bit more about some other challenges that have come up just in like this recent month, and maybe some of the ways that you all have tried to overcome them. Some of the topics we had thought about were balancing working at home with other challenges at home, the technology challenges, being able to maintain productivity with your employees. I just want to sort of leave it open if you all could tackle any of the other challenges that you've come across and some specific solutions that might have worked. Pam, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, so I think for us, we are really trying to, we're not as much fun as Cognizant, I'll say that. Like, we haven't come up with all those fun things, but we are trying to stay connected. And I think we're trying to teach people through, whether it's like our unconscious bias training or something, to kind of meet people where they are. And even though we are all kind of at home because of the virus, everybody's home environment is so different. Some people are alone. Some people have so many people in their house. And so we're trying to teach people to, kind of through different tools and tip sheets, how to be open to other people's environments, and don't assume that everybody's going through the same thing. Don't assume that because you have time right now and you need something answered quickly, or you need something right now. Be patient, kind of meet people where they are. We continue to do that. We've done a lot of tools and tip sheets. And as we even think about return to work, we're thinking about creating different webinars and videos for managers to start to think about managing either employees back in the office or split environments if they're going to have some people at home and some people in the office. So lots of tools and tip sheets. People have asked us for a lot of resources on how to teach your kids. So we found ourselves in the business of trying to help people, not just balance, but find the skills to be able to sit down and teach your kids. And so we've done that as well. And so I know we don't have a lot of time left, but I think those are some of the ways that we've really started to focus on it. And we're also working with managers to help them think about it. If you think about employees that are being redeployed to do different work right now because maybe their work has slowed down, for example, a lot of our stand-up trainers have not necessarily shifted to virtual for everything, just the essential training. So our trainers have some time. So we're redeploying them to other areas like in operations where we might need some help. And so we want managers to be able to start thinking about, what does the totality of somebody's experience for the year look like? How do you think about what they did in the first quarter when they were in the office? Did it change when they were home? Did their objectives change? Did what became important change? How did they handle that shift? Were they clear on their objectives? The one thing I'm going to tell everybody, if you are not clear on what you're supposed to be delivering because it shifted, you owe it to yourself today or tomorrow to get clear on what you're supposed to be working on. Don't kind of a month from now saying, well, it wasn't clear, so I didn't do it. It is on everybody on this call to make sure you're clear, and that if you manage teams, that your teams are clear on what they're supposed to do. So these are just some of the things. I'll give Matthew and Julie a chance to add as well.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest, sort of challenges in working from home, as we all have said, and the new environment, it's the new normal. What we believe is that the most important thing is not just communicating, is having conversations. I think, it's very easy to say, okay, we've communicated this, we've given you all the tools, these are the things that you should do, but are they being taken well? Have the conversation with, not only with the people directly reporting to you. This is actually time for leadership to actually make those calls and reach out to people that are, several layers below you. Because I know what all of us say, that we are so busy. In actual fact, we all at least save an hour a day, just the commuting alone. And if you can use that 1 hour a day to meaningfully affect and change someone's life in terms of how you communicate. I can tell you, just a simple email or text message to somebody that normally do not get access to me becomes a Facebook, oh my God, my CEO contacted me. It didn't cost me a second to do a text, but it made a difference to somebody who received that information. So never underestimate the power and the influence that you can have on someone that, could receive a message from you very well. And similarly, look at yourself. You would love if somebody above you, for me, I have my investors. If my investors reach out to me, I feel good that they understand what it is. So I think having conversations, real conversations, and not just, giving them the ability to think that they could work on, how best they can work. And I find that the conversation need not be like 1 hour psychological session or psychiatrist, time. It's 5 minutes, a quick text. Something like this will make a big difference to someone.
Yeah, if I may just add the 30-second quick for all of you who are listening, one of the best things you could do is take this opportunity to learn, read in a spare time. we've been pushing out contents for them to learn, and we record videos, record podcasts and various different concepts. But for all of you to take initiative to learn about the tools of trades or something outside, this is something that we always emphasize. For us, it's been very fortunate. We've been very fortunate that we always had this work from home kind of the culture and closeness of this community. So now we're getting to the next level as to what can we do. So learning and reading and watching, I think all those are a key thing. I just became head of I became the executive sponsor for our Pan-Asian affinity for the Cognizant. And for me, I've been reading a lot, talking to a lot of people outside my work. So I think taking that extra opportunity to learn and gain insights into something you might be doing or you may want to do down the road, I think that's a very, very positive thing for you to do.
Yeah, that. Can I just add one thing? Something I would just say, in order to learn something new, I think you have to say no. It's okay to say no during this time. It's okay to say it's okay to say I have too much on my plate. I need help reprioritizing. And so everyone should be empowered, because I do think what Matthew makes a great point. You want to have time to do some things. So whether that's limiting your meetings by 5 or 10 minutes or whatever it is, to be able to say no, stretch during the day, to be able to do something besides just sitting and having meetings all day is really important for self-care.
On that note, and we're not done yet. To learn from each other, I don't know if we have time for both, but we do have one poll question that I wanted to get to, because I think it came up in one of the questions earlier. One of the biggest concerns I think people have are losing some of those relationships with colleagues. So Jing, there was one question we had: how do you collaborate with colleagues now instead of an in-person meeting? And though we may not have a whole lot of time to discuss this, maybe we can at least learn from each other or put some others in the chat box. Don't forget the chat box. If you're doing something great to collaborate that's not here, put it down there so we can learn from you. I'm just gonna let this go for another 10 seconds. I wanna see if people put some other things in the chat box too.
By the way, while this is going on, I think one of the key concept that we have is, a sense of communities. We have check-in in the morning. So, concept of just checking in, hey, I'm here, like your kids are doing now in the morning. So I'm sure you know that you check in the morning. We do the same thing. And one of our studio, in fact, down in Florida, we actually have a studio manager or a community manager who actually leave the kind of Zoom running all day, so that people could, it's like similar to open door policy. So they could just come in and chat or get connected just to say, hey, what's going on, or have this concern. So there's some of the, I think that there are responsibility of managers as well as responsibility of individual to make sure you stay connected.
Maybe that goes both ways too, whether you have office hours or an open door policy, or like Pam was saying, to make sure it's, as an employee, you have to ask, what are you expecting of me? And how has that changed? And then it's up to us to do that as well. Let's see. So small group Zoom meetings got the most votes. Phone call. Yeah, I have a new appreciation for phone calls. Like, no video. Yes, that's great. Chat platforms, and then other, I don't see anything listed. Oh, happy Friday emails. Okay, that's good. Sort of like just a fun, yeah, and we don't get fun emails anymore. That's a great one. That's from Suresh. And then that open door policy, that's a good one that Matthew mentioned. And then I had one more. We're not going to get to that for how people take breaks, but I want to get to this question in our Q&A. Two of these are similar. So just really quick, in the few moments that we have, looking ahead to the future, how do you imagine the work from home environment? How do you imagine the work from home environment post-pandemic? Will you continue the work from home policy? Let's sort of leave it to that. If you could all briefly touch on, in the few minutes that we have, just
For us,
ideas.
absolutely. I mean, in fact, when we were bought out by investors, there was a talk about setting up bi-coastal offices. And with this pandemic has made it very clear we were the most progressive of companies. And so we're going to preserve the work from home culture.
Yeah, for us, we have to wait and see because we do have clients like JPMorgan Chase where they expect people to work on their site because of security, because of a very regulated industry. So, but our division's always had the work from home policy. So we'll just continue our fun activities as we move forward. And our marketing team does a great job of trying to make sure we're connected as well as having fun in this whole, as I said, I don't know if it's post anymore, it's just a natural transition.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever be 100%. I don't think we'll ever be a company that will be 100% for many reasons, not just regulatory. And I think we'll continue to keep pushing at all the scenarios to figure out, what makes the most sense and who, when, and how people work from home. So I think we'll keep pushing on it. I think, as you said, this has moved us forward light years in terms of trying to figure it all out and showing that it can be effective and it can work. And I think we'll keep pushing at it to get to the right place, which will, I think, be somewhat balanced.
And I think our company is doing the same at NYU. They're figuring out how to make this work, whether it's in the fall for staff, for students. But one thing that they did just do today was send out a remote work survey. So I just barely took a look at it, but I think it's about 10 questions. And it allows for, unlike these polls, there is a box at the bottom so you can have an open-ended question for things that are working. So I just saw that, but I thought that was a great idea for us to be able to provide feedback back to our managers to let them know what's working and what's not. And there's one more question that we can't really answer here, but somebody here wants to know if you all are hiring.
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
It's our LinkedIn corporate page.
Yeah.
We have open jobs out there.
All of us are hiring. I think this is good news.
Yeah.
Starting to see a lot more activity, so which is good as well.
That's
Yep.
great. Oh,
Go to our website.
yeah, sorry to cut you off. That is a Zoom challenge, only one person. So go to their websites, yeah, and maybe we can all connect on LinkedIn if we have not already. And I just want to leave you all with two quick fun items and then a quick thank you. And then we're gonna wrap this up. Oh, this we actually forgot to go to. This was a solution, a tech solution that we didn't get to, but if you're all experiencing neck pain or anything, this was a solution that was offered to me, and I think there are a couple other links. If you just have a laptop, to just get a simple Bluetooth keyboard, it can help you have a more ergonomic workstation at home just with your laptop and one extra keyboard. But I wanted to share two fun things with you. This one is fun, but also not fun. The VR project, also meant to be serious, the VR project I just worked on, it's social VR, and these are all avatars, and this was the company I worked with, and this looks ridiculous, but was literally the debrief meeting that we had after the event where we were talking about analytics and in this space. So perhaps an alternative to Zoom in the future will be a virtual sort of space, meant to be funny, but actually was strangely effective. And I want to leave you with this. Working from home can mess with your head. I hope that you all leave here with some tangible tips and that you've learned just a little bit from each other and from and in the middle there, he's just spinning around in his chair. I was going to say, I hope you walk away with some great tips, but you're probably still at home. So I hope you leave and stay at home and got some great tips out of this. I want to thank all of our panelists. Thank you to Pam, to Matthew, and to Julie for all of your information and for your insight. And a special thank you to Jing and Patrick, who are down there working behind the scenes to make this webinar happen. And of course, to the Asian American Business Development Center and John, Wong, and Scott, and Anna, and the whole team that is always just working hard to try to help the Asian American community in whatever way possible, even if whatever comes up. And I'm supposed to tell you that today's webinar will be available on the AABDC website and on the YouTube channel. And also the link will be sent to all of you who registered to your email address. And if you have additional questions, I'm told you can send them to the email provided on in the chat box. So Jing, is there an email? Oh, there it is, he's on it.
Mhm.
So if you have additional questions that we didn't get to, email those to Anna. All right. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your participation. And I hope that we can continue doing these and continue to learn from each other as we all keep learning with our own teams and our own managers. I'm Sapna. Thank you again.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you all.